Good Lord, this is the rarest of the rare. Welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name's Simon and today we're at Bicester Heritage for the fabulous Radwood event, a celebration of 80s and 90s cars. Let's go and have a look at some of the fabulous cars that are arriving. Many of them you can see behind me and a few more already on display. Hope you enjoy the show. So I'm here with Hubnut himself, Ian. Ian, tell us, what's caught your eye so far? I can see you at the gate.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much stuff. This is the broad range of everything. I'm quite liking, right behind us, the Alfa Romeo 33 Permanent 4.
Permanent four-wheel drive, wow.
Yeah, so that is an interesting car. This TVR Tuscan is a little late, but I think they did creep into the 90s, right. So yeah, really interesting.
What have you brought today?
We're just in the Belingo, we're in the normal parking today.
Ah, you're in the cheap seats today?
Yeah, because we have to tow the camper over here. But
right.
next year we'll bring something appropriate.
Okay, thanks for talking to us, Ian. Thank
no
you very
worries.
Much. Cheers.
Thank you.
And here's the car that Hubnut was talking about a bit earlier on the video, is this Alfa 33 but with permanent four-wheel drive. I mean, this is it a mini Audi Quattro? I don't know whether it is or not. I don't know enough about them. It's a nice example, gone a bit pink as reds from this period tend to do, but what a rare car. I'll have to try and find out how many are left and stick it on screen into the video, because there can't be too many permanent four-wheel drive 33s about. There's not many 33s. So first up we've got a fabulous Saab 9000. This is a facelifted car. This was a cooperation, the 9000, between Fiat with the Chroma, Alfa Romeo with the 164, and they came with this Type 4 platform. By this stage Saab had facelifted their car. This one in actual fact is one of the very rare Carlson, now named after Eric Carlson, who was the absolutely iconic Saab rallying champion. This is the more powerful 9000 and probably one of the ones to have, I would guess. So this is a rare one, built between a cooperation of Nissan and Alfa Romeo to keep the Sud plant busy when Sud production had finished. They produced this. It was either sold as the Alfa Romeo Arno, which stood for Alfa Romeo Nissan Automotive, or the Nissan Cherry Europe. So this one's a Cherry Europe and it's a GTI version of the car, and it's got this unique interior which the owner assures me is original, and basically there were sort of I think limited colours for the exterior, but look at that interior. Not for those of a nervous disposition, but doesn't that look great? Now this one's in superb condition. Probably there's only about 8 cars left in the UK. I think I've seen about 3 of them now, so I've got some way to go, but absolutely brilliant to see that here today, isn't it? Replacing the Renault 21, which was built on a weird car built on 2 wheelbases, is this much more conventional but very well accepted Renault Laguna Mark 1. Now, looking at contemporary road tests for this car, actually it did have the legs off the early Mondeos, by which time they were starting to age a little bit. Well received, certainly in terms of ride quality particularly, and a massive step up for Renault in terms of interior quality apparently. Certainly over the 21. This one's in superb order, and again a car that you just simply do not see anymore. So both built on a Micra K11 platform are these special K cars, the Peo and in this instance the Figaro. We're missing the full set with the van, which is the Escargot. This one's brought to us by the Figaro shop, so shout out to them, because what a superb job they've done with that car engine wise. Let's have a look at the interior. Very kindly I've left the interior open. There's a sea of beige in there, and of course for a day like today where the sun's come out, it's absolutely perfect, isn't it, with that full sort of semi-convertible cabriolet type appearance. That's lovely. So still using the A series engine, and added a bit of sparkle, and also brought the MG brand back after a few years of being dormant, is this lovely MG Metro. It's a relatively early car. It's an X, I make it probably a 2000. It's got those cross-spoke alloys. Maybe the original ones are metric and the tyre's not available, not sure. in absolutely superb condition. You could certainly eat dinner off the engine bay if that sort of thing appealed to you. Inside it's got that superb interior and that, I guess, that upright driving position, still that bus-like. I remember that from the one I learned to drive in. Sadly not an MG, just a humble BSM 1.3, I think. So by this time Rover had heavily facelifted the Metro in the early 90s to come up with the Rover 100. This one is a special edition Rio, which back in 1993 could have been had for about £6,300. That was the day. That's the cost of a few options on some of the cars today, isn't it? It's got that Rio interior, although it has been debadged, and the owner's done some brilliant work to it. Look at the wheels. We've got the full range of brochures in the back there. Should one of those take your fancy? That's a stunner, isn't it? So this is a former magazine car, and it's a 968 Club Sport. So the Club Sport lost lots of equipment. It's got wind-up windows. It didn't have central locking. That's been added on this car. It was really basic. Must be one of the last cars to have those pop-up lights on. I think they must have been outlawed after that. This one the owners had, I think, since March of this year. It's in brilliant order. As he's telling me that the central locking's been added, and but it's still got wind-up windows. Really basic spec in the back, but meant for club racing. Porsche did introduce the sport version above this when the British market declared it might be a bit basic for some customers. But that one's in brilliant order, isn't it? Now, it wouldn't really be an 80s festival without a DeLorean, would it? Come on. So this one is a vehicle that was built in Belfast, engineered by Lotus. The backstory to this one is almost as, if not more fascinating than the car itself. Inside, obviously, those trademark Goldwing doors. Only one finish to the body, which was this stainless steel finish. All of those generally were left-hand drive. This is a right-hand drive car. I'm not sure which officially came into the UK or other right-hand drive markets. Great to see that here. I think it was one of very few of these that I've actually seen. Lovely. So this is a lovely W123 chassis CE. I really like these. I like W123s, but particularly these with this pillarless coupe design. I've driven on the channel the later W124, not driven a or W124 chassis coupe. Love to drive one of these. If some of you out there, if one of you out there's got one, I'd love to have the opportunity to have a drive at that, because it looks absolutely amazing, doesn't it? That coupe body's brilliant. So at 41 years old, this 1982 Ford Astra EXP-S is a landmark car, because not only was the Mark 1 Astra a real step forward after the Chevette, this particular car is the first built for homologation purposes. There's a copy of the brochure on the dashboard there, so it promised exhilarating in style and performance. Well, we'll take Vauxhall's word for it. Got some lovely features there. Love those alloy wheel design with those squares, that sort of lattice style. Two-tone body, plenty of use of black there. Fantastic interior. And this one, I cannot stress enough how superb the condition of this car is. If this is your car and you're watching this video, please stick it on the comments, because honestly, I could eat my dinner off. It's got the original dealer sticker in the back or something that looks like that, and it's AA relay. Yeah, that's already shaping up to be one of my favourites, and I've not been here long. Wow. So if you're hoping to come here to stay a bit longer, here's this Fiat 900e camper van. Got a big old sleeping section on the roof. Interesting enough, it's got the sort of captain's type chairs. They were ahead of the game, weren't they? You can swivel around the front seats, and then you've got a seating area there as well. That's absolutely superb, isn't it? Love this one. This is the perfect car for a little camping trip, especially with this one having a trailer as well. Brilliant, isn't it? So back in, I think, the mid to late 80s, Proton were the fastest growing brand in the UK, believe it or not, using all the attributes of Japanese design and manufacturing in this former Mitsubishi product that they launched in the UK. Tremendous success with this. They stayed in the market until 2013. But this original car, there is a lot of love for these. John Coupland has a channel pretty much dedicated to these. Great to see them here today, and pretty few of them left as well. Certainly not in that condition. In the fabulously named Eleban Ivory is this Saab 900 Turbo, built originally for an Arab sheikh with sport suspension, air conditioning added. It was shipped to a man, and then unfortunately changed his mind and bought a Lamborghini. So the current owner, I think, bought it whilst he was there, or a member of his family were there, and looks like they've used it ever since. It's a sort of a very unusual car, certainly having air conditioning as standard. Got those Saab stripes, which were pretty much an option that dealers and could fit back in the day to contemporary Saabs. Lovely condition, isn't it? What a great story. So this wasn't intended to be a Peugeot at all. It was intended to be called the Talbot Arizona, which replaced the Talbot Horizon. However, it ended up through a series of decisions at the time being called the Peugeot 309, hence some of the contemporary resemblances to the 205. These handle really, really well. They're not quite as revered as the 205s, and they're not quite as well known, and for that reason they're getting pretty rare. Now this is a sporty one, and it's in absolutely lovely condition. Oh, it's been supplied by Ian Allen of Woking, not too far away from where I am now, and it's a 309 GR injection. Looks like it's a later facelift car with that panel behind the rear lights, and also it's got those pepper pot style alloys that I think the 205's got. I think the 205 1.9's got those. Lovely, lovely condition. Great to see a 309 here as well, because you don't too often see them in that condition or trim level. So here's the last Cavalier to be built at Luton before they switched to Vectra production. It's a very late car, an N-plated. I've only ever seen one later that was registered very late, which was a P-plated car. It's in pretty good order. It was rescued from a scrapyard. It's badged as classic, so I guess in that period of final run out, Vauxhall had these, and it's been also entered into the Festival of the Unexceptional by the look of that plaque in the back as well. So quick cameo for my car, which is a 1990 Mercedes W201 190E. This is celebrating its 33rd birthday this year, and the model itself is celebrating 40 years of since the model launch in October this year, and there's an event at Mercedes-Benz World for those of you that are interested in attending. This was originally a small car project developed by DAF. Volvo inherited it when they bought the company. Originally launched as the 343 3-door and the 345 5-door, logically. By this stage, by I think what, 86, looking at this car, we'd got a different grille, different profile bumpers, still got the steel wheels on there. I believe this one is in Nordic green, because I think I may have seen this car at Festival of the Unexceptional. I did actually have some driving lessons in one of these. Scared my mum witless. She had a 345. Great cars, loved by the drifting community because they are rear wheel drive, and hence not that many have survived looking like that one. Built as a hatchback with front wheel drive or a coupe with rear wheel drive is this Corolla from Toyota, which is the GTI model, or GT it's badged in this instance. You don't see many Corollas of this age about. Corollas didn't sell in huge numbers at this stage due to the gentleman's agreement with the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, which limited Japanese imports. So not many cars came in and not many survived. This, not sure if this is a Japanese import or not, but if you do know, put it in the comments please. Back in the 80s, Audi weren't quite the force to be reckoned with that they are now, and they produced this B2. I believe it's fuel injected, it's a B2, but it's a sport, which was an officially sold model in the UK. Got those lovely 14-inch alloys, got those sports stripes in there. Look at the stripe trim in there. That's of its day, isn't it, really? You do not see too many of these about, but I'm glad to have seen that one. That looks an absolute treat, doesn't it? So the Maestro is celebrating a 40th birthday this year. Claim to fame, it's one of the first cars to have colour-coded bumpers. Yes, really. This is the MG version that arrived sometime after launch. Originally coming as a 1.6 engine, which was perhaps not the brightest move. Then subsequently they replaced the 1.6 engine with this 2-litre EFI, I believe. So yeah, big step forward with that one. Massive glass area on this car, isn't it? And you can see that it certainly stood out back in the day, didn't it? So launched in the 70s, this was Toyota's chance to launch a coupe, and it was the Celica. This is, I think, the A60 generation, maybe second generation car. Real appeal for the American market. Still got those semi pop-up lights. Not sure how effective they are when they're down in terms of aerodynamics. Must help a little bit. This one is from 83 by the look. It looks like an original UK car as well. Sold in the UK by Toyota GB, and they were based down in Redhill. Helpfully the sunroof's open so we can get a good shot of that interior. It's a manual, which many of these were autos, and it's a 2-litre ST. That's a nice looking coupe, isn't it? So this Saab 900 Turbo Carlson is one of the limited edition Carlson models built for the UK. It's got a long family history. It's in daily use, or certainly in regular use. It's even been to Trollhättan last year for the 75th anniversary. And we're going to have a chat with the owner because the history behind this car is as fascinating as the car itself. I do like these 3-door cars over the 5-door cars. There's just something about them, isn't there, really? Let's just have a quick look inside as well. That nice 3-spoke wheel, that very upright driving position there, those fabulously comfy seats. Hopefully we'll get to sit in those a little bit later. This one's in superb order, but not without a whole load of work that the owner's actually done. So without further ado, let's have a chat with him and get him to tell us a little bit more. So Robin's going to tell us about this fabulous Saab 900.
It is
turbo.
Yep. It's the Carlson edition, which was made specifically for the UK.
Wow.
Most of these cars sold were in red, white, or black. This one is grey, unusually, because it was the very last of the run out.
Wow. Okay.
The Carlsons were made, were fitted out by the distributors. So as a result, at the end of the run, they just said, "Okay, well, you can have whatever colour you like."
Okay, and that's why we ended up with black.
Have,
is that unique to the UK then, was it?
Unique to the UK, black, white, and red. But then at the end of the run, there are a few other colours.
And what year is this from?
This is 1992.
So it's 92. Okay, so driving a 1992 car today, I've got a 1990. How's it feel in terms of, it's got the turbo, it keeps up with modern traffic?
Yeah, very nice. It's got a few upgrades because we had to rebuild the car basically. So it's poly-pushed throughout. It has a slightly bigger intercooler. It has 9,000 brakes. So all good subtle upgrades, but to make the car better. Bilstein B6s, which are a bit stiffer than the originals, which were B4s. Great car.
And you're a lifelong Saab fan, or just got into Saabs later?
My parents, bless them, originally had a white Carlson from new.
Okay.
And they did something in the region of 190,000 miles with it in the first 3 years. And they then part exchanged it for this one, new again.
This exact car?
This exact car.
Wow. That's great.
As a family, we've owned it for 32, I think, odd years. And now we're on 228,166 miles on the engine without a rebuild.
That's a fabulous story. Well, thank you for telling us about that. That's really useful. Thank you. Yeah. Really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Launched in, I think, 89, about £13,000 at launch, I know, because I looked at one at the time and didn't get one until a few years later, is this Mazda MX-5. Looks like an original UK car, looking at the wheels that are on it. Those alloy wheels were original UK wheels. It's got the Momo steering wheel. The cars actually did have a centrepiece over the top of that. I'm not sure whether it said Mazda on it or not, so that's been removed. I recognise the trim. I had a later one when they put the 1.6 engine in as a budget price model with steel wheels. Yeah, steel wheels back in 1996. Yeah, you've got to love an MX-5. There's a lot to like about them, isn't there, still? The E36 chassis BMW was introduced, I think the first cars were H-plated in 91. My mum had a 92 and a J-plated. This is the coupe version. I think it came a little bit later. It's lovely because it's still got those half-painted bumpers, not the fully colour-coded bumpers that came later. This is a 320i automatic, really stylish coupe, and certainly a lot more coupe-like than the previous E30 coupes, which were really, to be honest, just a two-door version of the four-door car, or certainly looked that way to me. Love that styling on the back of the E30s. That's, you need really to look from the side just to see how much that boot juts out at the top. Really great handling cars, as I remember, although my mum only had a 316i, but fabulous to see that here today, isn't it? So this is a rarely seen 4th generation S13 Silvia. I think this Silvia, or 200SX as it was called in the UK, is probably the first one we actually received in the UK officially. These were a hoot to drive. I had the option to drive one of these way back in the day. Really direct steering. This one's the more desirable manual version. There were autos. Seldom see these. You seldom see the successor, but these are even rarer, believe it or not. So based on the contemporary Honda Accord is this Rover 600 from 1999. Arguably Rover did a far better job with the styling, so credit to Richard Woolley who did the work on that, because it's indistinguishable from the Accord. All the engines, I believe, apart from the 620 Ti engine, which Drive Tribe have got hold of one of those, were in actual fact Honda engines. Later cars were at some stage picking up the 600 badge rather than the badge denoting the actual engine size. Great to see that here today, and you know what, I think that is still a remarkably handsome car. So 205 rallies were built for homologation purposes for rallying. There are so many people have actually copied these, I'm never quite sure what's real or not. This one looks pretty real to me. I think they had a 1.3 litre engine, which sort of would, with this lightweight trim, would rival the GTI because it was pretty much stripped out of equipment. This is a lovely example as well. I love those Peugeot stripes. Stripes, that's what we need to go faster back in the day. No, it's not a Fiesta. Definitely not a Fiesta. It was built at Dagenham. It's a Mazda 121. I think I've probably seen this car. There can't be more than one. I think I might have seen it at Festival of the Unexceptional, possibly. But nevertheless, if I have, then I'm very pleased to see it again because it's a rare one. And there, proof that it's definitely a Mazda. So who doesn't love a BMW 635 Coupe Sport injection? And I'm not going to put my hands up for that one because this one's absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely. Looks like it's got Alpina. There are Alpina wheels on it. Not sure if it's a full Alpina conversion. Look how the side windows in the back also retract down as well. That's quite a clever feature for a coupe. Factory sunroof in there. That typical shark nose BMW front. Yeah, competing with an aircraft in the background. It's just taking off, sorry about that, but there you go. 635 CSI. So without its flying buttresses, this is the full convertible version of the XJS, not the Cabriolet which came earlier. It's the full convertible. This one looks like it's had the light conversion at the front. Those lights, full size lozenge shaped lights, are actually pretty much unobtainable. You're talking about maybe £2,000 a lamp, somebody told me last time I inquired. So many cars have been converted to the US light treatment. Fabulous. In this instance, it's got the V12. Some of the cars are fitted. I'm not sure they had the 3.6 there as well. Stunning biscuit coloured interior. That's lovely, isn't it? So Hondas of this period are rare anyway, but the CRX was an absolutely fabulous, very fast coupe back in the day. This one's got looks like Recaro seats. Love that interior with that typical Japanese switchgear. This one looks like an original UK car. It's CRX VTEC 1.6 VT, and it looks like it's from '92, and lovely it is too. Look at that sliding sunroof there. Just feature how it sort of slides back. It's so big, the panel, it slides back over the roof and acts as a bit of a spoiler. Yeah, I'm liking that one, and I bet that still goes quite a bit, don't you? Is this Nightfire red? Possibly, I'm not quite sure. This one's in super condition. There's one of these on Furious Driving which is having a full repaint, I believe. Why? Because they're rare. This is a vehicle that didn't share quite so much with Hondas of the period. I don't remember any Hondas having the touring shell that this one's got. Built, I guess, predominantly probably for the fleet market in the UK, and it's a 420 GSI, and very lovely it looks too. So the Saxo replaced, I think, directly replaced the AX, unless there was a step in between I've missed. There were a couple of hot ones. There was the VTR and the VTS. I can't for the life remember which was the more powerful one. I'm assuming it's the VTS. This is a VTR, no less desirable. It looks like it's got might have a factory roof in that one as well. It's in pretty good order, isn't it, that one? What do you think? Many boy racers thrashed them within an inch of their life, but that one survived to tell the tale. So the Mazda MX-6 was produced in the same plant as the Ford Probe. At that time, Ford owned a good old percentage, I think up to about 25% of Mazda at one stage, and they did develop a few cars together, share platforms, share technology. I think they shared the Z-Tech engine, was developed I think by Mazda, or partially developed by Mazda. This one is a rare car. You probably remember the smaller MX-3, and this was its big brother, the MX-6. Interesting design on that one. If you look from the side, it's got almost quite a cab forward design, hadn't it? I guess typically probably because of the US market. So the Alfa 145 and 146 was the 5-door version, was Alfa Romeo's answer to the hatchback demand of the period. Interesting styling features. Look at that rear window there. Although it's only a 3-door, it's got that split in the window, even though there's no rear doors in this. Interesting, that styling feature. Look how the door drops down. I'm not sure what the story of that is. Maybe there's a bigger backstory to that one, but it's really nice to see an Alfa 145, because you just don't see that many of them, do you? Although Mr. Furious Driving's got one. So we've got an interesting little collection of cars here. We've got this Orion, which I think I've seen and filmed at Ford Fair. So shout out to the owner of that one. We've got the M100 front wheel drive Lotus Elan. Unusual to see these in white. G-plate, an early car. I think the car was only launched in 89 or 90 when the company was owned by GM and used the Isuzu turbo and non-turbo units. Non-turbo cars are pretty rare. A lovely Alfa 164 shares its platform with the Saab 9000 and Fiat Croma. Well, I've seen the Alfas and the Saabs, but I've never seen a Fiat Croma of that generation. Lovely E30 BMW, this time the Touring, and the convertible of choice is an R129 Mercedes. Late car by the look of it, looking at the body colour coding on that one. That's a Bobby Dazzler, isn't it? Like that. Well, you certainly don't see too many of these about, do you? It is a Mitsubishi Galant V6 24 valve. So the Mitsubishi brand doesn't exist in the UK anymore. They built the Galant. They imported this. I think this was competing against probably top end of Mondeo, maybe bottom end of Granadas. Really left field choice to have one of these, and no less special. Hoping to get one of these on the channel at some stage, but really stands out today as a one-off. Also based on the Tipo platform even is this Fiat Tempra, which was the booted version, and this one is a rare car, isn't it? It's badged as SXIE Cat. That's when having a catalyst was a badge of honour. Probably you wouldn't want it now because somebody'd target it to nick the cat from it, wouldn't you? But yes, and also with a rear wiper. Excellent. Great to see one of those here as well today. Absolutely nothing wrong with the Nova, particularly on its pressed aluminium number plates from 1983. Those blistered arches, fabulous interior. It's got that checked interior. Yeah, we've all driven a Nova at some stage, I think, haven't we? Yeah, that one's in superb order. I think I may well have seen that car as well at some of the shows at Brooklands. I suspect it's one of the cars I've seen before. Great to see a Nova, and unusual to see one in base level. The Escort Mark III was launched in 1981 under the tagline "Simple is efficient," and it moved from rear-wheel drive to front-wheel drive, which wasn't popular with everybody, as I recall. So this one isn't as it seems, because in fact it's one of the examples produced by a company called Gartrack. Now Gartrack produced about, I think, 30 road-going examples of these, and you can see probably the wheelbase looks slightly different, the arches are wider. Yes, in actual fact it is a rear-wheel drive Gartrack G6. And I think, as I said, there are only about 30 of these cars left, built predominantly for rallying, but Gartrack then wanted to produce some for road going. So to all intents and purposes, from a distance, it looks just like a normal Escort Mark III, but in fact, look closely and it isn't at all. Good Lord, I haven't seen one of those before. It's a Subaru SVX. I think most of them were sold as four-wheel drive, mainly for the American market. This one's an M, so what that would make it 94. Look at that strange glass effect. It's got a very much a glass-looking roof panel. Side windows come up and there's spots that fold down. Great shots. Thankfully, the owners enabled me to get some good old shots inside the car. It's a full four-seater. It would have been an absolutely left field choice in the day. I cannot recall really seeing one of these. No, they were officially sold by International Motors, which is the Subaru importer still, I think, to the UK. Wow, that's something else, isn't it? Now, amongst the everyday cars, just occasionally it's nice to have a bit of glamour. Anybody remember Miami Vice? I think they had a white one of these. Yes, it's a Ferrari Testarossa. It's a later car because you can see that the mirrors have moved down the A-pillar to a more conventional place. I think on the side of these, the ribs on the side were more to do with US impact protection than styling, because I think originally proposal was to have these completely open by Ferrari. Iconic car. Just absolutely love those. That 350i just arriving sounds absolutely awesome, doesn't it? In full in-betweeners spec is this Fiat Cinquecento with a door in red. The rest of the panels appear to be in yellow. Yeah, no comments about the stickers on the back. Let's move quickly on from that one. It's a family channel, and there you go. Is this the original car? Who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe it was the car from the in-betweeners. I don't really know. Stick it in the comments if you know the answer. I'm not sure who had the idea about putting pop-up lights on a family size hatchback, but we're glad they did. So here's a Mazda 323F called Poppy from 1994. and Poppy needs a bit of love. The old paint's the lacquer struggling a little bit, but she looks very well loved. Owners very kindly left the door open for us. It's got a factory sunroof in there, and it appears to work, which is more than can be said for many cars from this period. So yeah, hello Poppy, nice to meet you. The sheer diversity of this show turns up something like this K10 Micra. It's a later car. I actually learned to drive in a Micra K10. Very fond memories about how easy they were to drive, and this one is in absolutely lovely order. I really like these. So using an Isuzu base vehicle through the GM ownership of Isuzu, Vauxhall made use of this to get themselves into the SUV market pretty quickly and built these at Luton in a plant that I think now builds the vans for the enlarged Stellantis group. Yes, it's a Vauxhall Frontera, and I've rarely seen one in recent days, and rarely have I ever seen one that's in such immaculate order as this one in this lovely green colour. Isn't that a very, very tidy vehicle? Wow. Got the wheel on the back, super. So this is a Series 2 Esprit, very linked to the Series 1, designed by Giugiaro. Doesn't share the same style and features. Peter Stevens changed it quite a lot. Absolutely lovely car. What's that, 2000 on an X? Beautiful interior. Lotuses don't survive, their interiors don't survive as well as some cars, but certainly that is a cracking looking car. I think they're Rover SD1 tail lights. Put it in the comments if you know, because I just can't remember. I'm pretty sure they're from a Rover. Maybe they're not. So VW had one more roll of the dice with the Sirocco before they went to Corrado, and then eventually the Sirocco name would be revived. Here's a later Sirocco. Later cars were sold as Sirocco Scalas, for those who remember when body colouring was a thing. I think pretty much everything on those was body coloured actually. I'm not sure that's a Scala or not. Next to it we've got a fabulous Toyota MR2, 86 on a D, midship runabout 2-seater from Toyota. Again, those don't survive too well. Again, you know, people go on about these. It uses a block from a VW LT van engine. It's a Porsche 924. A lot of VW parts in the early cars, which makes them much cheaper to maintain than when they went to the 924S, which used a lot more Porsche parts. Next to that, we've got, well, the yin and yang. We've got a Wartburg. That's incredible, isn't it? And one that's drawn my eye there is this lovely Roland Garros 205, complete with full-on gingicators that the early cars had. Oh, that's a lovely car, isn't it? And it's not just because it's green, before you shout out. It's a stunning car, stunning interior on that one. I'm not sure if these were mostly auto. No, this one's in actual fact is a manual. Well, that's good. Well, certainly in my book anyway. It's got the full factory sliding sunroof as well. That looks really nice, really pretty little cars. So Porsche did actually produce a turbo version of this car before going for increased CCs. They produced the 924 Turbo. The key giveaway with this one, it's a right-hand drive car, so a UK car by the look of it, is the additional cooling vents in the front of the car, and that denotes certainly the turbo look. I don't think they use those on any other 924 from memory. In full Martini livery is this Lancia Delta Integrale. I drove one of these, a bit more of a standard looking Integrale, sometime late last year. Check out the video on the channel of that one, because that was something else. They say never meet your heroes. Wow, well in this case I'm so glad I did. Lovely. So designed by Renault and built by Matra. I think it's got a glass fibre, maybe not glass fibre, but a sort of composite style body shell. Probably that's why quite a few of these have survived. You see so few of these. This is a later facelift car. Wow, these were a revolution when they were launched because of the amount of space. Really one of the first MPVs, and look at the space in that one. You've got the seat captain's seat that goes backwards. I think the Star Wars model is probably an extra. But yeah, you seldom see these. It's a TXE injection model. and I think it's the only one I've actually seen here today at Radwood. And you know what, it fits in so very, very well. So we're in the show and shine section at Radwood, and what would we start off here with? A Honda Aero deck. Quite a rare one. I know that the Grand Theft Auto's got one that he's repairing, so check out his channel. We've also got next to it a later Saab 900. That looks a lovely example, doesn't it? So wow, beautiful wood interior. One of my personal favourites next is coming up is a Rover SD1 Vitesse. It's looks like a facelift model. It's an 84. There is something about these cars, that David Batch styling, the Daytona front, that superb dash, that long strip dash that they've got. Oh, it's a manual as well, which makes it equally desirable. That's a lovely, lovely car, isn't it? I really like that. Incredible cars. So let's look at a few more. So here's a very early Audi 90. Yes, not 1890 with a 5-cylinder engine. It's an extremely early car, being on an E-plate. The first company press cars were on D plates. We're going to try and have a chat with the owner in a second, because it's an extremely low mileage one, I recall, and in superb condition. I think even the paint's original. It's got some lovely features on it because it's a 4-wheel drive version as well. So without further ado, let's have a chat with the owner, shall we? So John, you've got a rather unusual Audi B3. It's not the more common 80, but it's the lesser known 5-cylinder 90, isn't it?
Correct, and even more so, it's the 90 Quattro.
Okay.
Which carried quite a hefty price premium over the standard 90, so rarer still.
So I guess many customers didn't go for the 90 unless they wanted what, the 5-cylinder. That was
the big pull. The big pull 90
was
the 5-cylinder engine, absolutely.
You couldn't get the 5-cylinder in the 80 at all.
Not at that time. No.
Okay, I understand. Have you had it a while?
I've had it about 4 years. I'm the second owner. The first owner purchased it new in 1987. And as you will note, didn't do many miles because it's still less than 15,000
less than 15,000 miles from new. That is incredible, guys. And this one, I noted they got certain features I remember from back in the day, where they got the Procon 10, where instead of an airbag, where it pulls the steering away, doesn't it?
Just pre-Procon 10.
Just pre-Procon 10 was it? Okay. And also galvanised body.
100% fully galvanised body, which was absolutely major at that time in terms of longevity of the panels and the underbody.
So how's this one survived so well? Low mileage, but been in a garage, been hidden away?
No, it was actually a garage owner who bought it.
Okay.
So yeah, hidden in a garage is spot on. Recommissioning basically involved fuel and brakes, the usual things that would come up, and some paint correction. This is 100% original paint, factory paint. Everything as you see it is.
Wow,
is
and we'll cut in some shots of that. You've got to see this car to believe it, how tidy it is. I do remember these. I drove the B3, but never drove never looking if to drove a 90. But real step up in fit and finish over the B2s, weren't they?
Over the B2s, and pretty much over anything else you could buy at the time, in my opinion. I remember back in the day going from, I think it was an Austin Montego, into an Audi 90. Then it was like a different planet.
Yeah, that's it. That's quite an uptrade. I can relate to that.
Heaven. And the switch gear, the dash materials, everything was just stunning.
So what's your story with these? You had one, you always wanted one?
I had one, I drove them, I owned them new from 1989 onwards. I went from an Audi 80 1.8S to an Audi 90 2.2, Audi 90 2.3, Audi 90 20 valve, Audi 90 20 valve Quattro, and then cut across to the coupes.
Oh, fabulous!
So I was a bit of a fan.
Sounds like
the reason for getting back into one latterly was really to see if I had a rose-tinted view of memory of how good they were, and I'm glad to say I didn't. They are exceptional cars.
And this one's from
1987.
1987.
This is an incredibly early B3 customer car. Any car. There's a couple of. There were a few D plates. And they were all dealer demonstrators or press cars.
Right.
Customers all hung on to the 1st of August to get the E-plate.
Of course, yeah,
so
like most people would.
Any customer cars had the E-plate. This was 1st of August 1987, so the first day of the E-plate.
Wow.
It's and early 90s, all 90s had the body-coloured bumpers, which was another pull. But they didn't get body-coloured mirrors until later, so this still has the black mirrors. The early ones had space saver spare wheel.
Right.
Customers complained. Audi UK did that because there was this perceived small boot on the B3.
Right.
So they wanted to make it look bigger. But Audi customers complained that they wanted a full-size spare wheel, so you could go back to Audi UK and get a free full-size spare wheel.
Oh, right, and this one's got...
This one's still got the space saver.
Okay, okay.
And there was no boot trim on it as well. So these
fabulous.
mark this out as an early car. The chassis number and date does that, but that's other early features.
Oh.
And it doesn't have a gas-assisted strut for the bonnet. You have to put that up yourself, which is, again, that very quickly became a feature on these. So little, and the other way that marks this one out as an early car is the colour, which is Titian red,
right,
which was a carryover from the B2s.
Okay, Titian
so
red.
you were just talking about brochures earlier, and it took me 10 goes on eBay to get a 90 brochure that had Titian red in it because it was discontinued so early.
Oh, fabulous! Well, thank you for telling us about it. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Celebrating 35 years of the Mini, produced in, or Mini Cooper I should say, produced in 1996, is this Mini Cooper 35 LE. Love that sort of almond green paint with the white roof. Very, very pretty little car with a 1.3 multi-point injection engine in it. So this is quite a little toy set. We've got an early Porsche 928, car of the year 1978, believe it or not. The Rolls-Royce Camargue. Now, the Rolls-Royce Camargue was, I think, produced under the ownership of Vickers. Not a commercial success. Arguably, some would say not a stylish success, but has grown into its looks as it's aged. And then to complete the set, we've got a later facelift 928. And doesn't that one look very bonny? I do like the facelift cars as well. By this time, you've picked up a rear spoiler. It is in fact an automatic, as many of the cars were. I think the manuals do command a big old premium on there, but that's a nice looking car, isn't it? So Vorsprung durch Technik or whatever. This is an Audi 100, and really it does show progress through engineering. This car was launched and extolled the virtues of a very low CD factor, and that CD factor was something like 0.3. These were great cars back in the day, really well made. Guess why this one survived? This one's just a 2-litre E, but having driven a 2-litre E, they've still got plenty of poke with them. They're quite surprising for 2-litre capacity. So check out Chris Pollitt's project, E-Class Mercedes, done loads and loads of work to this. Love it to see it in daily use. And yes, Chris, we love the wheels. Fabulous to see it here today. If you see Chris, then say hello to him. Brilliant. I think he positively got a bargain. I think he didn't even pay £1,000 for this one. Lovely. So Nissan did have a series of coupes imported. These would have been the Octave Botner days before Nissan took over official ownership of the import rights. This is a Silvia, pretty quick in turbo form, and they donated their stock engines to Reliant, who used them in one version of the Scimitar SS1 sports car. This one's a lovely looking car, isn't it? So thanks again for joining me at Radwood 2023 at Bicester Heritage. It's been a superb show. I hope you liked the video. I hope you liked the eclectic collection of cars we've seen and some of the owners we've managed to have a chat with. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications so as not to miss the next video, and hope you'll join me on the next one. Thanks for watching.